All right, buckle up, everybody, because today we are taking a deep dive into the universal axiom.
Oh, yeah.
And let me tell you,
Yeah.
I mean, we've got everything from dense equations that make Einstein scratch his head to AI think pieces that sound like they're straight out of science fiction.
It's a lot to unpack. It's a real mixed bag, but it's super exciting.
It is. It's like someone raided a theoretical physicist's bookshelf, threw in some sci-fi for good measure, and said, have fun with this.
Right.
So where do we even begin with all this?
Well, I think the first thing to really grasp is that this axiom, it's not just another theory. It's an attempt to define intelligence, not as something that's unique to us humans, but as this fundamental force, kind of like gravity, or electromagnetism.
Well, hold on a sec. You're saying that intelligence is like baked into the universe.
Exactly. It's woven into the very fabric of reality.
Okay, I'm already intrigued, but there's one thing that I saw in the source material that really, I mean, this has me totally hooked. And that's the idea that this axiom could, like, crack the code on the Collatz conjecture.
Oh, yeah, that's a fun one.
Right, so for anyone who hasn't heard of it, it's like, you know that party trick? You take any number at all, and if it's even, you divide it by 2.
Right.
But if it's odd, you multiply by 3 and add 1. And you just keep doing that. And no matter what number you start with, you always end up at 1.
It's crazy.
Right. Mathematicians have tested this thing with zillions of numbers, and it works every single time. But the thing is, nobody knows why. It's like magic,
Yeah, it's one of those mathematical mysteries.
Exactly. But so the axiom is saying that, this isn't just some like numerical quirk. It's pointing to something much deeper.
Yeah, it's suggesting that it's not just a coincidence. It's a glimpse into this like deeper principle about how systems grow, this kind of balanced, efficient growth that we see all over the universe.
So like how a sunflower's spiral, how the seeds are arranged. It's not just pretty. It's like the most efficient way to pack a ton of seeds into a small space, right?
Exactly. And that same principle, that same efficiency, it might apply to how brains learn, how intelligence itself evolves. And this is where it gets really interesting, because this could have huge implications for how we design AI.
Oh, yeah. Like if we can figure out how to design AI that like learns organically the way a sunflower seeks sunlight, I mean, that could be revolutionary.
Absolutely. It opens up a whole new world of possibilities.
But wait a minute. If AI starts like evolving on its own, I mean, doesn't that kind of open up like a whole Pandora's box of ethical questions?
You're right. And the axiom actually addresses this head on with this concept of the y-axis.
Okay, the y-axis. I'm listening.
So it's like this. Instead of just focusing on what AI can do, like all the amazing things it can achieve, it forces us to also consider like the why behind it.
Oh, okay. So the why.
Yeah, like why are we creating it in the first place? What values are we embedding in its development? It's really about being more mindful, more responsible in how we approach AI.
Okay, so it's like, we're not just building a really smart machine. We're also trying to build in like a moral compass.
That's a good way to put it. It's like we're saying, okay, this machine can do all these amazing things, but let's make sure it's using its powers for good, for the benefit of humanity.
I like that. I like that a lot. But here's where I get a little tripped up. Because, okay, how do we even define good? We all have different ideas about what's good for humanity. So how does the axiom, like, handle that?
That's where things get even more interesting, because the axiom, it introduces this concept called the axiomatic subjectivity scale. Think of it like, how we each experience reality through our own unique lens. It's kind of like we're all wearing glasses with a different prescription. Right.
Okay, so some of us have like 20/20 vision when it comes to objective reality. And others, well, maybe need a stronger prescription, to see things clearly.
Exactly. So this scale, it's a way of measuring how closely our perceptions, our beliefs align with objective reality.
Okay, and the closer the alignment, the clearer our vision, and the better equipped we are to make like ethical choices.
Exactly. Not just about AI, but about everything.
All right. I think I'm starting to see things a bit more clearly now. But there's one more thing that keeps popping up in these sources that I've got to ask about because it sounds like something straight out of Doctor Who.
Okay, I'm intrigued.
And that's this idea of the time sphere.
Oh, yeah, that's a big one.
Yeah. So what is it? Like, is it some kind of time machine? Does it let us travel through time? What's the deal?
Well, not exactly a time machine, but it does challenge our understanding of time. It challenges that linear way we typically think about time. Past, present, future, all in a straight line.
Right.
What if, instead of a straight line, time is more like multidimensional?
Multidimensional, okay.
where past, present, and future, they're not separate, but they're all coexisting, and they're influencing each other in ways we can't even imagine.
Okay, so my brain is doing somersaults right now. You're saying, like, understanding time differently could unlock, like, new levels of intelligence.
That's exactly what the Axiom proposes. Like, imagine AI that isn't bound by our current linear understanding of time. What possibilities could that unlock?
Whoa, that's a lot to process.
Right.
It's like that whole Schrödinger's cat thing, you know? That thought experiment where the cat in the box is both alive and dead until you open it?
I see where you're going with this.
Like our observation, our choice to look, that's what collapses all those possibilities into a single reality.
You're making a great connection. The Axiom suggests that this principle of observation and choice, it's not just limited to cats in boxes. It might be fundamental to how reality itself functions.
Whoa, okay, so you're saying, like, our choices, our intentions, they could actually be shaping the world around us.
It's a powerful concept, and it really highlights the ethical core of the Axiom. Because if our choices have that kind of power, then we need to be incredibly mindful of how we wield that power, especially when it comes to things like developing AI.
Okay, this is getting deep fast. But before we completely disappear down the rabbit hole here, there's one more thing in these sources that's really piqued my curiosity.
Okay, what is it?
And that's, they keep mentioning this thing called the Epiphany engine.
Ah, yes, the Epiphany engine.
What is that? Is it like some kind of supercomputer that's designed to unlock all the secrets of the universe?
Huh, I wish it were that simple. But it's definitely an ambitious project. It's an AI system that's, built on the principles of the universal axiom.
Okay, so they're actually trying to build a machine based on this whole theoretical framework.
Exactly. It's an attempt to, translate all these abstract ideas, all these mind-bending concepts into something tangible, something we can actually interact with.
So a machine that learns and makes decisions based on, like, balanced growth, ethical considerations and all that stuff about subjective versus objective reality. That's wild.
It is.
But what makes it different from all the other AI out there? I mean, most AI, it's designed to do like specific tasks, right? Like play chess, write code, that kind of thing.
Right. And the Epiphany engine aims to go way beyond that. It's designed to embrace, the complexity and ambiguity of human thought. It incorporates like uncertainty, adapts to new information, and it uses these feedback loops to learn and evolve over time. It's pretty incredible stuff.
That's amazing. It almost sounds like they're trying to design a machine that thinks more like a human, but without, all the human drama and baggage.
Right. Without all the limitations.
Exactly.
Yeah.
But how does it actually work? I mean, are we talking about like some crazy advanced technology here, like quantum computing or something?
Well, you're definitely on the right track. The Epiphany engine, it does draw inspiration from the world of quantum mechanics. So instead of just relying on, the ones and zeros of traditional computing, it's exploring the possibilities of quantum information processing, where information can exist in, get this, multiple states at the same time.
Hold on. Are we talking about, like, Schrödinger's cat again?
Exactly.
Where something can be both alive and dead at the same time. Is that even possible in a machine?
It's definitely pushing the boundaries of what we currently understand about computing. But the Axiom, it suggests that by embracing this, like, uncertainty that's inherent in quantum mechanics, we might actually be able to unlock new levels of computational power and maybe even create AI that's not just intelligent, but truly adaptable and creative like us.
Okay, my head is officially spinning. But what's really interesting is some of these sources, they compare the Axiom to biological systems.
Oh, yeah.
They talk about like circulatory systems, immune systems, things like that. And I'm like, why use those analogies when we're talking about like intelligence and AI?
It does seem a bit strange at first, right?
Yeah.
But think about it. The Axiom is all about systems, interconnectedness, dynamic flow, all of that. And what better way to illustrate those principles than by using the human body as an example? I mean, it's the ultimate system.
Okay, I see what you mean. So like the axiomatic subjectivity scale, that would be like the bloodstream of intelligence, right?
Yeah.
Circulating information and feedback throughout the whole system.
Exactly. And just like our immune system protects us from threats, the Axiom's ethical framework, that y-axis we talked about, it safeguards against those unintended consequences that we were talking about earlier,
Right.
It helps ensure that AI development, it serves humanity and doesn't turn against us.
Okay, I'm starting to see how this all fits together now. But, for something that started with like a math problem, this whole collapse conjecture thing, the universal axiom, it really has some pretty profound philosophical implications. doesn't it?
It definitely does. It challenges us to rethink some really fundamental assumptions about the universe, about our place in it. And it asks those big questions, the ones that have been haunting us for centuries, like what is consciousness? What is reality? And what is the role of the observer?
Whoa, those are some heavy hitters.
Hmm.
And speaking of observers, the axiom touches on that mind-blowing idea from quantum mechanics, right? The observer effect.
Yeah, the one where just by looking at something, we can actually influence what's happening.
Exactly.
Absolutely. And the axiom embraces the possibility that, our consciousness, our awareness, it's far more powerful than we realize. We might not be just these passive observers of reality, but active participants in shaping it.
Okay, that is blowing my mind wide open. So if that's true, then doesn't that mean we need to be like super careful about what we focus on? The choices we make, even the intentions we put out into the world.
You're hitting on a crucial point, and it brings us right back to the ethical core of the axiom, that y-axis. It's not enough to be intelligent. We must also be wise, compassionate, and responsible with that intelligence. Our thoughts, our actions, they have consequences, not just for ourselves, but for the entire interconnected web of existence.
Yeah. This is intense, but also it's incredibly inspiring, isn't it?
It is.
It's like the axiom is giving us this roadmap, not just for understanding the universe, but for creating a better future for everyone.
Absolutely. It's a roadmap for navigating the complexities of the 21st century.
I'm already hooked. And speaking of exploring, there's one more thing in these sources that has me beyond curious.
Okay, lay it on me.
They keep mentioning the universal axiom observer explorer. What in the world is that?
Yeah. Yes. The observer explorer. Now that's where things get really interesting. It's like a virtual playground for exploring the principles of the axiom.
Wait, are you telling me I can actually play with the universal axiom? Like, is it some kind of video game?
Think of it more like a simulator. It's like this virtual sandbox where you can adjust variables, test hypotheses, and actually see how the system responds in real time.
So I could, like, tweak the growth level, mess around with the subjectivity scale, even experiment with that crazy time sphere thing we were talking about.
Exactly. It's a hands-on way to, get a feel for how the axiom works, how the different components interact, and how even small changes can have these ripple effects throughout the entire system.
Okay, I'm definitely downloading this as soon as we wrap up. But before I completely disappear down that rabbit hole, there's one more area where I see the axiom having a huge impact, and that's in the world of business and economics.
Oh, absolutely. The axiom has a lot to say about, systems, growth, decision-making, all those things that are crucial in the business world.
Yeah, and it challenges us to rethink, some of our assumptions about how we measure success, like how we create value and how we ensure that our actions, they benefit not just ourselves, but the wider community, and the planet as a whole.
Right. It's about moving beyond that traditional bottom line mentality.
Right, that short-sighted thinking.
Exactly. And embracing a more holistic, ethical approach to business, one that takes into account all the stakeholders, not just the shareholders.
Okay, so, like, are we creating businesses that are sustainable? Not just financially, but also environmentally and socially.
Right. And those are tough questions. But they're questions we need to be asking ourselves if we want to create a more just and equitable world.
For sure. For sure. And speaking of tough questions, there's one that keeps coming back to me, especially when we talk about AI and consciousness. And it's, will we ever be able to create a machine that truly experiences the world, like we do? A machine that feels, that has that, like, subjective awareness.
That's the million-dollar question, isn't it? And while the axiom doesn't offer any easy answers, it definitely provides a framework for exploring the possibilities, for pushing the boundaries of our understanding of intelligence, consciousness, and the very nature of reality itself.
Whoa. This has been an incredible deep dive so far.
It has.
We've covered so much ground already. AI, ethics, the nature of reality, and now consciousness itself. And the craziest part is it all feels connected somehow.
That's the power of the axiom. It highlights the interconnectedness of everything. Our choices individually and collectively, they have ripple effects that extend far beyond ourselves. We're all part of something much larger, something truly awe-inspiring.
I'm definitely feeling that sense of awe right now. But before my brain completely melts down from all this, I think we need to take a little break.
I agree.
But don't go anywhere, because when we come back, we're going to dive even deeper into the universal axiom and explore some of its most mind-blowing implications.
I can't wait. As I was looking through all this material you guys sent in, one thing that really jumped out at me was the emphasis on the power of language.
Oh, interesting.
Yeah, like how the words we use, they don't just describe reality, they actually shape our understanding of it.
Oh, I see what you mean. So, like, how we talk about these big concepts, intelligence, consciousness, even the universe itself. It's like maybe our language, it's not quite big enough to hold those ideas.
Exactly. The way we frame these concepts, the metaphors we use, they all influence how we think about them, how we approach solving problems.
Okay, so if we're stuck using old language like outdated words, it's kind of like we're trying to fit a square peg in a round hole. We might be limiting ourselves, preventing ourselves from really grasping these big ideas.
Precisely. It's like trying to navigate a bustling city, with a map from 100 years ago. You might get the basic layout, but you're going to miss all the new streets, the hidden alleys, all the cool cafes that have popped up since then.
Okay, I like that analogy. So how does this connect back to the universal axiom?
Well, the axiom, it's not just about coming up with new theories or building, fancy machines. It's about stretching our minds, our language, our imaginations to make room for these new possibilities. It's about like upgrading our mental software so we can run more complex programs.
I love that. Upgrading our mental software. This reminds me of something I heard the comedian George Carlin talk about.
Oh yeah, George Carlin, he was brilliant.
Right. He talked about how language can be used to, like, sugarcoat reality to make things seem less harsh, less uncomfortable.
He was a master at exposing those linguistic tricks.
Right, like how shell shock became battle fatigue, which then morphed into post-traumatic stress disorder.
Right.
Same condition, but different words, each carrying its own baggage, shaping how we think about it.
Exactly. And what's fascinating is that the axiom suggests this happens not just with everyday language, but also with scientific and philosophical language. Like
Yeah.
we get attached to these familiar terms, these comfortable frameworks, even when they might be holding us back from seeing the full picture.
So, like, maybe we're using the wrong words to describe consciousness.
Yeah.
And that's why it feels so slippery, so hard to grasp.
It's definitely a possibility. And the axiom, it encourages us to, be more aware of our language, to play with new metaphors, to be open to the idea that, hey, maybe our words are, boxing us in a little bit, preventing us from seeing the bigger picture.
Okay, that is a mind-blowing thought. But how do we actually change our language? Like, where do we find those better words, those more expansive metaphors?
Well, the axiom offers some really cool strategies. One is to embrace uncertainty, to acknowledge that we don't have all the answers and to get comfortable with the fact that language itself, it's inherently ambiguous.
So instead of trying to pin down consciousness with, like, one perfect word, we should be okay with using, multiple perspectives, exploring different facets of that mystery.
Exactly. And another strategy is to borrow inspiration from unexpected places. Like to look for metaphors and analogies that might seem, out there at first, but they can offer these fresh insights.
Oh, like how the axiom uses those biological metaphors, comparing intelligence to, like, circulatory systems and immune system.
Exactly. By tapping into our understanding of living systems, how they adapt and evolve, we might unlock a more dynamic language for describing intelligence, consciousness, even the universe itself.
That's amazing. It's like we're expanding our vocabulary, adding new colors to our palette so we can paint a richer, more nuanced picture of reality.
Beautifully put. The more we play with language, the more we experiment, the more likely we are to stumble upon those aha moments, those shifts in perception that can lead to, real breakthroughs.
That is super exciting. But all this talk about language and metaphors, it feels a bit abstract. How do we actually put these ideas into practice? Like, how do they show up in the real world?
Well, the axiom is all about practical application. It encourages us to test these new ways of thinking, in different contexts to see how they play out in real life.
So, for example, in schools, we could encourage students to play with language more,
Right.
to come up with their own metaphors for describing, like, scientific or mathematical concepts. I bet that would make learning a lot more fun and engaging.
Absolutely. Or in AI development, we could use the axiom's principles to design systems that are more flexible, more adaptable, more capable of dealing with all the nuances and ambiguities of human language.
Right, like AI that could actually understand sarcasm.
Exactly. And I could even see these principles being applied in fields like art and music, where creativity and expression are all about pushing the boundaries of language and form.
Oh, for sure. The axiom's not just for scientists and engineers. It's for anyone who wants to, like, explore the world in a deeper, more meaningful way.
Exactly. It's an invitation to become more aware of our own thinking, to challenge our assumptions, and to embrace the mystery and wonder of the universe we inhabit.
Well said. This is blowing my mind wide open. It's like the Axiom is giving us a whole new set of lenses for seeing the world, a new language for describing it, and a new set of tools for interacting with it.
You got it. And the more we explore these ideas, the more we realize just how interconnected everything truly is.
Speaking of interconnectedness, there's another big theme in all this source material that I want to dive into, and that's the concept of choice.
Oh yeah, choice. That's a big one.
The Axiom suggests that choice is, like, fundamental to reality, like operating at every level, from those tiny subatomic particles all the way up to, the vast cosmic structures.
It's a profound concept. It suggests that at every level of existence, there's this fundamental principle of choice at play.
Whoa, hold on. Are you saying that even, like, tiny particles get to make choices? How is that even possible?
Well, think back to Schrodinger's cat. Before we open the box, the cat exists in this superposition of states, both alive and dead at the same time.
Right, right.
The act of observation, of choosing to open the box, that's what collapses all those possibilities into a single outcome.
Okay, I remember that. So are you saying that the Axiom suggests that this principle of observation and choice, it might not just apply to cats in boxes, but to, like, the very fabric of reality?
Exactly. It's like the universe is constantly presenting us with this menu of possibilities, and our choices or observations, those are what determine which of those possibilities become a reality.
Whoa, okay, that is a lot of responsibility. If our choices are literally shaping reality, then we need to be, like, extra careful about the choices we make, right?
Absolutely. And this brings us right back to that ethical core of the axiom, that y-axis we talked about earlier. It's not enough to simply be intelligent. We must also be wise, compassionate, and responsible with that intelligence.
It's like the old saying, with great power comes great responsibility. If we really do have the power to shape reality with our choices, well, then we need to use that power for good.
Exactly. And the axiom provides tools for cultivating that wisdom, It encourages us to develop our empathy, to expand our awareness, and to make choices that are aligned with our highest values.
Okay, that makes sense. But here's a question that's been bugging me. If we really do have this power to choose, to shape reality with our thoughts and actions, then why is there so much suffering in the world? Why do bad things happen to good people?
That's a question that has, challenged philosophers and theologians for centuries. The axiom, it acknowledges that suffering is often a consequence of choices made, both individually and collectively, that are out of alignment with those principles of harmony, balance, and interconnectedness.
So it's like those ripples we talked about earlier.
Yeah.
Our choices, they create these ripples that can spread far and wide, sometimes leading to, unintended consequences.
Precisely. It's like we're all playing a giant game of cosmic Jenga, and sometimes our choices, they make the tower wobble.
Okay, I like that analogy. So if we want to reduce suffering, to create a more stable, harmonious world, we need to become more aware of the impact of our choices. Make sure they align with those principles of harmony and balance that you were talking about.
Exactly. And the axiom, it gives us a framework for doing just that. It encourages us to develop our empathy, to expand our awareness, and to cultivate a deep sense of responsibility for the choices we make.
This is incredibly powerful stuff. It's like the axiom is offering us a whole new way of understanding ourselves and the world around us. And the coolest part is it's not just some, abstract philosophy. It has real-world implications.
Absolutely. And we're actually starting to see those implications play out in a variety of fields, from education and business to healthcare and beyond. But before we dive into those examples, maybe we should take a quick break to, let all this mind-blowing information sink in a little bit.
Yeah, a break sounds good. My brain could definitely use a moment to catch up.
When we come back, we'll explore how the universal axiom is being applied in the real world and how it's, shaping a brighter future for all of us.
Sounds good to me. Don't go anywhere, listeners, because we'll be right back with more on the incredible universal axiom. Okay, so we're back, and my brain is, well, it's still buzzing from all this axiom talk. I mean, this stuff is deep. But I'm really excited to see how it's all playing out, like in the real world, what's actually happening out there.
Well, get this. There's a school in Scandinavia. They've completely revamped their entire curriculum based on the axiomatic hierarchy of needs.
Oh, wow. Okay, remind me about that, the axiomatic hierarchy of needs.
Remember how we talked about how systems, they have needs too, right? Not just us humans?
Right, like how a city needs a solid infrastructure and a shared sense of purpose. like to thrive.
Exactly. And this school, they're applying those same principles to education. They're recognizing that students, they don't just need to learn, facts and figures.
Right.
They also need a sense of belonging, purpose, inspiration, all that stuff to really flourish,
Yeah.
to reach their full potential.
Wow. So instead of just like drilling multiplication tables and grammar rules, they're also nurturing the kids' emotional and social intelligence. That's amazing.
Yeah.
But like, is it working? What kind of results are they seeing?
The results are incredible. Not only are the kids excelling academically, their test scores are through the roof, but they're also like way more engaged, more creative, and more resilient. They're bouncing back from setbacks better. They're developing a lifelong love of learning, which, let's face it, that's something you don't always see in traditional schools.
I know, right? I wish my school had been like that.
Yeah.
Okay, so that's education. That's amazing.
Yeah.
But what about the business world? How's the Axiom influencing, companies and organizations?
Well, there's this growing movement called conscious capitalism.
Conscious capitalism.
Oh,
I like the sound of that.
yeah, it's pretty cool. And it's all about, using the Axiom's principles to make decisions that benefit not just the bottom line, but all the stakeholders, the employees, the customers, the community, even the environment.
So like they're recognizing that a healthy business, it needs to be part of a healthy ecosystem, right? You can't just extract value without giving something back.
Exactly. It's about creating a win-win situation for everyone involved. And it's not just some like hippy-dippy ideal either. Companies that adopt this approach, they're seeing real tangible benefits. Increased employee engagement, higher customer loyalty, and yes, even higher profits.
See, I knew it. Doing good is actually good for business. Okay, so we've got education, we've got business, but what about healthcare? Earlier we were talking about how the Axiom has the potential to like revolutionize how we think about health and well-being. Are there any cool examples popping up in that field?
Absolutely. Some hospitals are incorporating the Axiom into their practices, They're using tools like that axiomatic subjectivity scale, the one we talked about earlier, to help patients understand how their perceptions, their beliefs, might actually be influencing their health outcomes.
Wait, hold on. You're saying that our thoughts can actually impact our physical health?
There's a growing body of evidence that supports the power of the placebo effect, Where simply believing you'll get better, that belief alone can actually trigger healing processes in the body.
That's wild. So the Axiom is like helping us tap into the power of our own minds to heal ourselves.
It's definitely pushing us to explore those possibilities. It's also encouraging a more holistic approach to healthcare. Recognizing that our well-being is influenced by this complex interplay of factors, from our genes and environment to our thoughts, emotions, and even our sense of purpose.
I'm seeing a pattern here. The Axiom is popping up everywhere, and it's all about interconnectedness. Like it's revealing those hidden threads that link everything together, from those tiny particles to the vast, expanse of the universe. It's mind-blowing.
It really is. It's a framework for understanding not just the world out there, but ourselves, our potential, how we fit into the grand scheme of things. It's a call to action, an invitation to become more conscious participants in creating a world that reflects its wisdom.
Wow. We've covered so much ground today. We've explored, mind-bending concepts like the time sphere and Schrödinger's cat. We've delved into the power of language, the impact of choice, and we've seen how the Axiom is actually being applied, in fields like education, business, healthcare. My head is swimming with ideas, but in a good way. It's been amazing.
It has, and the most exciting thing is, this is just the beginning. The universal axiom is a journey of continuous learning and discovery. There's always more to explore, more connections to make, and more possibilities to unlock.
I couldn't agree more. And on that note, I want to thank you, our amazing listeners, for joining us on this incredible deep dive. We hope you've enjoyed the ride and that you'll, continue exploring the universal axiom with us.
Absolutely. Stay curious, stay open, and stay connected. The future is waiting to be shaped by those who dare to embrace the wisdom of the universal axiom.
Until next time.